Good morning, everybody. Peter Ciccone, EAA, Entrepreneurs Across America, Diner Discussions. We did a we're pulling a special episode today on a Friday. And we are back at the Dix Hills Diner. I call it home base. It's where we've done most of them. And got a special guest today, a good friend, Alex Wolff, who is a professional photographer and commercial artist.
It sort of goes commercial and fine art photographer.
Fine art photographer.
Right, that's the quick way for the business card.
Okay, his company is Headshot Rescue. So if you need a headshot for get your name out there, you want a picture on your business card or something of that nature, Alex is your man. But Alex is doing an art show right now, and behind us we have Jackson. Well, I'll let him explain. And you look at his shirt.
Sure. So I've got an art show going up at the Jovan Fine Art Gallery in East Norwich, right across from Rothman's. And this is one of the pictures I had taken at Jackson Pollock's house. The collection that we're showing, which is here as well as on my shirt, is a collection of photos that I had done of the floor during a visit to his house
That's the same
in
print.
East Hampton. Oh yeah, I didn't even realize I took the same one. And this shirt is actually made from the artwork that I had made at the Pollock Krasner house.
Now explain what you did with Jackson Pollock. Like Jackson Pollock did not per se paint this.
No?
You saw the splatters of paint on the floor. In his studio, you took pictures and then created artwork as a result.
Yeah, so
I find that amazing. I find that's an artist's eye. I would have.
Yeah, I was on a tour. It was my wife's birthday back in 2014. We're a family of artists. My daughter's an artist. My wife's an artist. So what do you do to celebrate someone's birthday? You go visit an artist. Of course, Jackson Pollock had passed in 1956, so we weren't seeing him.
We're a family of foodies, so we go out to a restaurant. But artists go to the art studio.
Artists go to the art places. So I'm out there. I walk into Jackson Pollock Studio, and he bought it in 1945 when he married another artist, Lee Krasner. Artists do stick together.
Okay.
And I walked in, and I saw all this color on the floor. Now, if you don't know who Jackson Pollock is, that's actually...
I do now, but I did it at first. Well, I did actually.
It's fairly common. Most people will know the name, but not the work.
Okay.
It's because there are
Alright.
TV shows, movies that mention him and even are about him. But he was a famous artist before he had moved into the house, and he moved into the house in Springs, which is a town just to the east of East Hampton.
Okay. So
And-
this house is out here in the Hamptons, or
Yep, and the house is still there.
okay.
And it's an important part of the story of why it's still there
Okay.
and why it's still his house. But I walked in on a tour, and instead of listening to the tour guide, I looked at the floor. Pollock, and even though he was a very famous, I'll call him a regular artist, or very famous painter at the time, and he's the first person. If you've ever seen paintings in galleries that have splotches of paint everywhere, he's actually the guy who did that experimentally, was recognized as being a master of it.
So you took his real splatters from what he was doing and kind of did a take on what he did.
Only sort of. And so Pollock's paintings, of course, are copyrighted and are owned by people, and they're actually not in Pollock House. They're in museums all across the world in private collections. But what his thing was, he would put a canvas on the floor, and then he would walk around with cans of paint and turkey basters and paint brushes, and he would splash the paint onto the canvas. You know, if you took a brush, put it in a can of paint, and went like this, it's going to create some kind of pattern on the canvas. And he's very, very good with color selection.
Okay.
And
Here's my question. And again, excuse the linear math
No worries.
business guy. Him doing that, it's expensive art that sells for
$100 million.
$100 million. If I did it, it's garbage.
Not necessarily.
Okay, but it doesn't fit. What makes him doing it so worthwhile? What makes somebody else doing it look not worth anything?
So in the circles of art, right?
Okay.
So art, when you get to someone who's selling stuff for $100 million, of
Yeah.
course he's dead. Very few artists command stuff
Okay.
like that when they're alive, but they start off being recognized and hanging out in groups of artists. Like Van Gogh did not just stay somewhere and paint. He was with a bunch of other artists that talked to each other. So the people who are recognized in their era as being artists are generally hanging out with other people who are also being recognized.
And they're the ones saying he's great.
It's the combination of, you'll hear about a school of art, and basically, whether it's the Dutch masters, there are people that you would name like Renoir that you know.
Okay.
It's because in their own time, they were doing something that was a little bit different than everybody else, a little bit better. How they applied
They
light.
were avant-garde at the time,
Yeah.
Whenever their era was, they were a step ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Picasso, all he did was art. But he wasn't on his own. He was with a couple of other artists.
Now back to your collection.
Mm-hmm.
What you do, and what you've done with Jackson Pollock's, the splatters on his floor,
Mm-hmm.
you saw art there.
So sort of.
Okay.
So art's one of those things that you can find. People find driftwood, turn it into art every day. When I was at the studio, the Jackson Pollock Studio, which is trademarked by Stony Brook Foundation, they own the house now.
Stony Brook, the university.
The university
Okay.
has a foundation, and I had no idea that I was going to create art. I was testing a camera. I do underwater photography and all other types of photography. And I had a brand new camera that I had to go do an underwater shoot in the Cayman Islands like 3 days later, but I'd never shot it. It was like in my hand for a day.
Okay.
So I'm just testing it and seeing the different color palettes, little 4-inch by 6-inch pieces with a different color.
Yeah.
And really, under the circumstances, there's 30 people in the room, someone's talking, and it's very poorly lit. There's some light coming in, which is really good if you're a painter, but really bad if you're a photographer. The pictures didn't look so hot. So I got them back to my house, and there's a program called Lightroom from Adobe. It's a sort of a partner program with Photoshop. And I use that to load my images onto the computer. I'm looking at them very, very disappointed, not in the quality of the camera, but in the quality of the images because of the circumstances.
Okay.
So one of the things that Lightroom allows me to do is allows me to do a lot of adjustments quickly.
Okay.
And I looked at one of the images and I said, why don't I like the image? Why isn't it striking and meeting my aesthetic? And I said, well, it's kind of dull. The color is a little bit off from what was over there. So I started making adjustments. Those adjustments include sharpness,
Okay.
contrast, saturation, brightness, shadows, adjusting everything.
Okay.
And what started to happen was started to see that here's all of a sudden something I like to look at.
Okay.
And so I started out with the first one, and I did that same treatment to about to about 40 images, but I liked about 25 of them. And I started looking at them, and some of them I liked just the way they were. They were a very good documentary. As a commercial photographer hired by someone, I'm hired to, I photograph a lot of people's artworks. I'm hired to create a direct natural representation of their art.
Okay.
So now I had the pieces that were a good representation, having been adjusted and taking all the environmental issues out of it. They said, they still started to see, when I started looking at the patterns inside the splatter,
Okay.
they said, wow, maybe if I do something like the one I have shown up here and the one I'm wearing on the shirt,
Okay.
I do a process that's called symmetrizing, which is where I take, or some people think about it as like a kaleidoscope.
Okay.
I take the one panel of the image and I copy on another layer in Photoshop.
Okay.
I flip it and move it over so it aligns to a way that I like.
So you're manipulating your images, lining them up so they look symmetrical, you know, and then you create art based on what they have. Now, let's your shirt. What did you do here? You just you have a bunch of these printed, or is it your Jackson Pollock line?
No, well, so I have them available, but
Okay.
I don't. It's just tremendously expensive to create a clothesline.
Okay.
So I have a website where when someone orders the art,
Okay.
they can say, they go through and say, oh, I'm looking for a shirt today. If I give them the link, they can find my stuff. And so they can say, I like that. And then that company will go ahead and take my art and apply it to the shirt or a shoe or a handbag or underwear, a pillowcase, whatever people order.
Pillowcase. Okay. So they where can they go look for that and get clothing?
So you should reach out to me directly.
How?
I'm Alex at alexmwolfffineart.com.
Alex?
Wolff has two F's.
Two F's.
And-
Alex M. Wolff, WOLFF.com.
No, fineart.com.
Fineart.
So it's actually three F's in the middle.
Okay. So
And-
AlexMWolffFineArt.com. And they can buy clothing or
Yeah.
bed linen or
Yeah, so they can take a look at the images.
Okay.
And let me know what they want, and I'll direct them to the right place for what they're looking for.
could they shop for prints like that?
Yeah, so these prints are available two ways.
I want to talk about this one separately, but this is a Jackson
Right.
Pollock.
So the Jackson Pollock prints are fine art limited editions.
Okay.
This size, which is 17 by 22, is $5,000.
That's $5,000.
And the people who are interested in that as a signed limited edition, numbered, it's a limited edition of 100. So only 100 of these will ever be made. People who collect them want this
Who
because
signed to you?
I sign it.
Okay.
I have a license, actually. I had to get a license from Stony Brook Foundation.
Yeah, I know.
They own the floor, but it doesn't matter. The floor is garbage. I use Jackson Pollock's garbage to make this, so it's not like I copied Jackson Pollock's work.
But you do make a donation to the foundation every time a piece sells.
No,
Okay.
we had a different licensing agreement.
Okay.
So I didn't want to have to track for them, and they didn't want to have to track for me every time something sold and how much and who bought it. So what we did is we entered into a licensing agreement for me to use their trademark. It has nothing to do with the image, it's only for marketing.
Okay.
To use Jackson Pollock Studio, which is registered trademark by Stony Brook Foundation.
So you pay for the privilege
That's
of
correct.
using their name.
Uh,
Jackson Pollock Studios using that trademark, and that's your licensing agreement with them. And they say, go have at it, Mr. Wolff.
Right.
And
And I've paid them up front
okay.
for the agreement rather than tracking. And what they took for about $125,000 value licensing agreement, they took the number 5 image signed from the limited editions of each piece.
Okay.
So it's $125,000 value and 25 pieces. That's how the valuation of $5,000
Okay.
comes into play.
Okay, so you based it on what they based it on also.
Yes.
And the licensing agreement, so they have to be $5,000. Okay?
Yes.
That's
So they're there. So
so interesting that you worked it out in trade, really.
yes,
Yeah.
my no one should do this without an IP lawyer. I actually negotiated it on my own. I know a bunch of really good IP lawyers who had given me advice over the years on different things, and
Don't do what he did.
don't do it. If it didn't, it only worked because they were amenable
To make it
to
work.
make it work in what
plus
I
what-
wanted.
But what you're doing, and again, you're speaking to someone who's not an artist, but somebody who, when I see other people, and it's why I'm glad you brought this. This is an oil stain, or was an oil stain, and
You want to just lean back so that they
yeah,
can see
look
it?
at that. This is an oil stain on pavement that Alex turned into art. He was taking pictures. I've seen him do this before, and I was explaining to the owner here at the diner when Alex was setting up, I said, you and I see an oil stain on the driveway, we get somebody out there with a hose, or we go out there with the hose ourselves, and we remove it, we don't want to see it. I walked out of a meeting, I saw Alex taking pictures of an oil stain. I said, what are you doing? And he showed me on his phone, and he said, then this is what I do. I put it through this filter, I do this, I do that. And I was blown away. I'm like, that's art now. I mean, well, it was an oil stain a minute ago now, and now it's art. And here's a print to prove that, so you guys can see.
And you can decide what you see in here. So most of the time, Jackson Pollock would not give a title to his artwork, to his abstracts. He titled all of his regular paintings.
Okay.
But he felt that if he told you a name for his artwork, then it would limit what you can see in the art. Everybody,
Okay, sure.
in abstracts, everybody sees what they want. But, and this one, I won't tell you the name. You could spend a moment trying to figure out. So, Peter, what might you see in here?
Okay, I see. That looks like a ghost's face to me, or somebody maybe passing through to another dimension or spirit or something like that. It could be the ocean, I don't know, and it could be lava. I'm just seeing the reds and the blues and the different color. I haven't, but I'm looking. That almost looks like a face to me right here, and maybe like when they ever depict a spirit or somebody either leaving or entering or making a visit to somebody who needs an intervention. That's what that kind of looks like.
And it sort of looks like it's outer space. So I think I call it space ghost, depending on.
Space ghost, so I saw a ghost.
Yeah, so that's what I see, but it could also be.
I did not know the name of the painting or the art.
Yes, I sprung this on him. He's actually never seen this. And if you look over here, this could actually be a fetus in utero, right? So this could also be a space mother, some kind of spirit. And if I turn it upside down, you're not going to see the face. You'll see something else.
Let's do it. Why not? Let's see.
And what you see, I don't know, because in my mind, this is one of my few abstracts that actually has a proper way to look at it.
Okay.
So that no longer looks like a face.
No, it doesn't. It looks almost like, something being discarded or being ejected.
Yeah.
And now you see, now that what I said, a lava stream before, now I really see that more with the orange and the purple turning to orange, or the orange turning to purple, whichever one's hotter. It looks like it's almost like a cooling down or a process. And
Or an aerial photo.
Or an aerial photo or something.
Over a volcano or something.
Okay.
So here's the interesting thing. So in the 1980s, I had an art show in a gallery downtown, Monterey Photo Labs Art Gallery, back in the days when I was working on Wall Street. And I had a whole series of these, and none of them had this kind of richness, because this is adjusted in Lightroom and Photoshop to bring out the colors, and the same thing I did with Jackson Pollock. And they're much duller, and Pete can tell you what he saw didn't have this kind of color.
Oh, I saw an oil slick on pavement.
And it's only since about 2008 that I could actually make this type of an adjustment to it. And if you looked at the original photo to this, you might think, if you never saw this one, that the original photo was an okay photo. It's like, oh, that looks kind of cool. But until I take it and add the color, the contrast, the darkness, and all of that, it doesn't meet my aesthetic. And it did in the old days. But as time evolved.
Like everything. One quick question before I let you go. So if people take pictures on their phones of oil slicks in their driveways and send them to you, can you turn those into art?
Sometimes. So the ones I did, I was working on one. I've had the art show, so I couldn't really spend a lot of time on.
Okay.
So I have to send it to you. What I do is I created a tile from one of the shots that I took that day that would work perfectly for a repeated pattern on a shirt or a tile in a bathroom.
Okay.
And have a commercial. You do shirts and.
Yeah. Well, we have the T-shirt company and things like that.
Right.
That's true.
So with a T-shirt company, you're doing stuff that people hire you to do. But if you were to develop your own line, you want something that's unique, and something like this might say, hey, we're gonna do a series in this, we're gonna do that Pollock series.
Different, and again, every business is different. We found we have created a couple of lines. We liked a one color on if we were doing T-shirts. It's all production versus sales. Your production cost versus your sales price. Same with art. If an artist spends 3 months doing something, it's going to be one price, I imagine, versus if it took them 55 minutes, it's going to be a different price.
And that's a problem with artists in business. First, they don't always see the value of their time. Sometimes I have a magazine called Long Island Portfolio Magazine, online magazine, so I interview a lot of artists.
What I just said is a foreign concept to them.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so someone will tell me what their pricing is on an item, and I'll ask them, well, how long did it take you to do that? And sometimes they're looking at almost $1.50 an hour. I'm not exaggerating.
Sure.
They say all the times they have the perception of the market that the work that they've done does
Gonna
not
justify
have the
the-
value
Okay.
in the market. Well, how much people are going to spend?
I'll give you a quick analogy. Professional wine tasters will never take a blind taste test, especially if you have a name, because they know full well a good $4 bottle of wine, and there are out there, or a $6 and $8 bottle of wine versus the $200 bottle of wine can trick them, and they might like the inexpensive cheap bottle better. It doesn't happen all the time, but certain things they want a certain brand to have a certain expense to it, a certain value, and they so it's the same thing. They have no concept of the true value sometimes, or they want to create a value based on image. And that's sometimes that's hard to do, but that's the way.
The value isn't about the time that I spend on it. The value is about what it's worth to you personally, and that's true with a lot. Someone could say, well, I get a T-shirt for $5, and I could get a T-shirt for $55 or $155.
Yeah.
Because it's that personal value.
Sure.
The question is, who's the market?
Something is only worth what somebody's willing to pay. So tell me about the art show very quickly. Where do people go? How can they get to the art show?
Sure. So if you're familiar or not with Jovan Photography and Video up in East Norwich on Northland Boulevard, he's converted his building, which was partially built in 1865 or something like that, and converted into this beautiful, beautiful art gallery. So
Right in East Norwich on 25A?
on 25A, right across from Northlands, if you're familiar
Okay.
with the steakhouse. That's what
Sure.
most people know. It's that crossroad just before you get into
Oyster Bay.
Oyster Bay on 107. There's another artist there. I'm actually only a guest at the show. The primary artist is John Joseph Dowling Jr., who lives around the corner from here, and we meet here
Okay.
quite often. He invited me to be a guest at his show. We had a soft opening last night, which was Thursday, and we have, I guess today is September 8th.
Yes, it is.
So here, September 8th is Friday, so that shows tonight also from 4 o'clock to 9, and then again tomorrow from 4 o'clock to 9.
Anything, is it free to get in, or?
Oh yeah, it's free to get in. There've been great appetizers, some wine, and certainly if you're in the area, it's John's work is a completely different style of work than mine. He uses a lot of paintings as well as different photos and digital artworks. He's got about 200 pieces up, and the work's breathtaking. My work's pretty good too. And we invite everybody to come and see it. And if you can't make it, you can see my art at Alex M. Wolff, WOLFF. So it's 3 F's, alexmwolfffineart.com. And I've got 3 collections up there, 2 in addition to the Jackson Pollock and Splatter series.
Well, Alex, thank you for coming down. It's been an education,
you.
and I've enjoyed it. And I'm not a big art guy. I just don't know much. I like the dogs playing poker. I'm that guy, Or I look at some of the old, the shots of people that I get. But when I saw what you did, it just blew my mind. And so thank you for coming down, and good luck on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and good luck with the show. The show can bring a lot of value to people.
Yeah.
And I wish you and all your guests the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you again. And if you like, comment, guys. Like, share, and subscribe.